You don't usually go live on YouTube.
No, I'm not going to.
Yeah,
Hi, Teresa. Hi, Ryan.
I got one more thing.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Yeah,
Happy
you too.
holidays.
Back at you.
Yeah. Awesome.
Here comes Matt Beers.
I don't know.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, everyone.
I'm at.
I also want to say hi to Nat, who's hanging out in the attendee area. I think Nat, I don't know whether he had a computer or he didn't have a camera or something last time. I'm not quite sure. I don't remember.
Let's everybody mute our mics while we get started really quick, and then as we go, we'll have you unmute and participate with this conversation. Christine McGinley, Terry Wager, Generator Coaching. We are here with our coach, mentor, good friend, Mitch Axelrod today. He is author of The New Game of Selling, and he is just an amazing guy. Christine, you want to say a few words about him?
I'm just so excited to share Mitch with all of you, and those of you watching live, and those of you that will watch in the replay. And we met Mitch a while back, and we said we want to talk more and learn more. All it was he presented it in a mastermind for maybe like 5 minutes, and you just get that vibe of, I want to know this person more. And boy, have we gotten more than we even thought we would get. The knowledge, the wisdom, the nuggets, the pieces that have moved our business forward personally and making more money.
Yeah. And so, no further ado, Mitch, good to see you here. Tell us how you got started in selling and business.
Or wherever you want to start, our friend. You are a brilliant speaker, connector. Take it away.
Well, I could take you back a long way if you really want to go back in a time machine. 1978, I got out of college, and I went to work in the garment center of Manhattan, New York City. And I was doing cold calls. I made 5,000 of them, knocking on doors. This was the summer of Legionnaire's disease. Everybody was freaked out. I made 5,000 cold calls. I didn't make one sale. I was selling something nobody wanted to buy, facsimile machines. And the funny thing is, you couldn't sell one. Who are you going to fax to? So you had to buy two. I got more doors slammed in my face. I said, this is crazy. I did it for 3 months. I got out, got my insurance license at night. And as they say back then, I put up a shingle and got into business for myself. And I have been self-employed for now going on 44 years. I've never had a job from the day I walked out of college. I coined the phrase psychologically unemployable because that's what I am. I love working. Yeah, I know you guys are too. I bet many of the people who are watching this didn't know they were, but are now realizing they're psychologically unemployable. So I started 10 years as a financial planner. And interestingly enough, I didn't know anything about marketing. I didn't know anything about selling, but I knew everything about service. In fact, I got my life's mantra when I was 16. I was a counter boy. I was making food and serving it to people over a counter. They called that a luncheonette back then in New Jersey, where I spent most of my life. And one day a guy comes up to me and he sticks a dollar bill in my hand. Now, I was getting 10 cents, 15 cents, 25 cents. The most I ever got was 50 cents. And that was a good tip. I said to him, right what I thought, he's trying to pay his bill. I said, you paid your bill already. You're thinking he's paying his bill. He says to me, no, that's for you. I said, wow, I never got a dollar before. And he grabs, he puts his hand around my hand and he says, you're worth it. And that was the first time somebody actually said to me, you're worth it. I wonder how many times in your life have you ever had somebody say to you, you're worth it? Well, that stuck with me. And I didn't realize it until later in my life, when I was old enough to understand what happened. And I realized at that moment, the reason he gave me the tip was because I was quick, I was clean, I talked him up, I was courteous. Yeah, I really served him. I loved him and I served him. And he rewarded me with his money. And I said, that's the ticket. No matter what happens to me, and I've had bankruptcies, I've been a millionaire at 32 and dead broke at 34. I can always find somebody to love and serve, and they will reward me with their money. And that literally became the ethos by which I have gone into business, stayed in business, have had ups and downs, the roller coaster ride that we talk about all the time, Terry. And when I, met you guys, I said, hey, I'd like to hop on this bullet train. Let's see where you guys are going. So my whole career has been really, truly, and, if you talk to the 1 million people that I've trained over the years, it's really a love and serve. Now, it's not Pollyannish because you know what? The only way you can love and serve people for a long period of time is if you're profitable. And that's something I knew intuitively because I knew business, but I didn't know how to make myself profitable. I had to learn how to charge for my services. I had to learn how to sell. And the most important thing, I think of all, I had to learn how to be coachable. But I was an athlete, so I was coachable. And I sucked up, coaching from anybody who could teach me. Literally, my son teaches me more than anybody. I would learn from anybody, all right? And I think that no matter where you are in your career, you have to have a beginner's mind. You have to come to every conversation as if I can learn something here, and I can teach maybe, but I can always learn something. Even if it's learning what not to do, okay? Or how not to be or whatever. So I spent 10 years doing financial planning, one-on-one. And at that point, I realized I had become bankrupt. I didn't know what to do. I made a bad investment, a good investment, bad time. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do what I love to do. My wife was 8 months pregnant. I had $5,000 squirreled away, and I gave it to a guy named Brian Tracy. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of him, but he's kind of a real giant in our industry of personal development, sales, speaking. And within a couple of years, I was back on my feet, earning 6 figures again, in training, coaching, counseling, and teaching people how to sell. Because what I found was I didn't like the old ways of selling, your pen or mine, trial closes. That sounds good, doesn't it? It felt very inauthentic, manipulative. So I decided to go in a different direction. And somewhere in the mid 90s, after I had produced some programs that I sold to companies for pretty good money, I came up with this idea that, the business game is changing and everybody has to play a new game. And so I literally developed a new game of business. And that was the first iteration. And then years later, I wrote that book, The New Game of Selling, was the #1 bestseller. And we have this training that's produced about $3 billion of revenue. So in a quick, 40-year capsule, that's the evolution of things. I still have energy. I'm still excited about the game. It's always changing. So, there's always a new challenge. And I think, having hooked up with Terry and Christine a year ago, now more than a year ago, it was very exciting for me because I had a chance to take some of this stuff and share it with people who were coachable and eager and willing and just, model students. And you can't be a master if you're not a good student. And I can spot people who are masters because they're good students. All right. So that's my story, and it might change tomorrow.
Not likely. And so, what kind of companies have you worked with in the last 20 years that has been really super exciting for you to work with, and what kind of deals? Because one of the things we talked about a lot is the idea of rainmaking and deal making. So can you talk a little bit more about that and shed some light?
It's interesting. A good question, because I went to college. I wanted to be what you were. I wanted to be a psychologist. And after I spent about a semester doing intern work at a psychiatric institute, I realized this is not for me. I have to be around people I can uplift, not uplift me. So I decided to get into sales. I decided to get into business, but I didn't have any formal business training. So it was like, all right, how do you do deals? Well, they don't. I was at the Dale Carnegie sales training. They teach you how to do a script, but they don't teach you how to make a deal, right? And really, when you break it down, whatever you're selling, whatever you represent, whatever service you have, you're making deals, right? You're making deals that have a win-win outcome. So I realized that the majority of sales training that I got was not for me. Again, it was scripted. It was manipulative to some degree. It was all my work. It was a lot of heavy lifting. Like I had to do a presentation. I had to ask all the questions and I had to close the sale. And it's like, how do I learn to do all these things I am not naturally gifted to do? So I have to play a different game, right? So I learned really by doing. And that's one of the critical premises I have. Some people, they do by learning and they spend too much time learning. They have the curse of knowledge, either too much knowledge and they never actually use it, or too little knowledge and they think, well, I'm not smart enough yet. And I say, that's like a roller coaster to nowhere, because you never have enough knowledge. And if you have to have a certain amount of knowledge, you can never get started, so you're stuck. I said, that's not what this game is about. This game is about loving and serving people. If I can understand how to find out what you want most, what's pressing you in life, and become what I wound up labeling myself as, the sales doctor, then I could diagnose, prescribe, right? And I could take the position of not having to sell you, but actually coach you, advise you, do for you what I would do if you were my brother, my sister, my parent, my child, all right? And build that long-term trusted relationship, because I didn't know any other way, all right? And so I learned to do deals by doing deals. One of the things we've talked about, and many of you will probably have this, even though you may not think, is intellectual property, right? So people want to create a course or a program or whatever, right? You start with what's up here. This is essence. You turn the essence into a form, a book, right? I have books, I have courses, I have trainings, I have videos, but I don't sell them. I sell solutions. You see the difference? When you're selling whatever you're selling in a form that you're selling it, you don't know it, you're not conscious of it. I'd be surprised if you were, but you have to make two sales. You have to sell what's in it, the content, if you will, but you also have to sell the form it comes in, all right? So I had a stroke almost 2 years ago. Writing, speaking is my livelihood, all right? I can no longer write, I can't type. I'm getting there little by little. So what do? I had to compensate, right? So you begin to think that what you put into form, if they love what's in it, but they don't have the form, like I can't read a book because they can't turn the pages right now. That's pretty screwy when you think about it. So I have to think audiobook. So if you have a book that I want to read right now, and there are 3 of them I want to read right now, but you don't have the medium for me, I can't buy your book, right? Now translate that to whatever product or service you have. So if you're not good at selling, then you're going to have a hard time selling the form that it's in, selling it because you have to make 2 sales. So what I realized was, and this is really true for anybody who's in the creation business, right? If you're selling a program, a product, a course, a mastermind, a coaching program, everything that's form, you have to make sure that you go after the people that not only want the content and the solution, but they want the form it's delivered. And that could change your marketing totally, right? So this is all part of what I call the new game thinking. And new game thinking is no box thinking. It's not inside the box, not outside the box. You throw the box away, all right? Because when you go outside the box, you're really still tethered to the box. You're just inside a bigger box, right? But you're tethered. When you throw the box away and you clean the slate and you draw on a blank slate of paper, they call that tabula rasa, you can create anything. So I figured, you know what? I'm going to throw away my presentation, my demonstration, and I'm going to come in with a yellow pad back then, and I'm going to sit down, I'm going to talk to people, find out what they want, lower the threshold of threat. You know, we talk about trust, that like Terry, you like to say, you have to remove distrust, right? That's profound when you think about it.
Yeah.
It's really true today. It's not just good enough to build trust. You have to first remove that skepticism. I'm a Jersey guy. I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical. I'm cynical, you know, not really. So in any case, I had to learn how to do the deals. And because I didn't have a playbook, I wrote it. And every time I did a deal, I sat down and say, okay, what did I do? What are the steps I took? How did I negotiate? And what I found was when you kind of change the game, which really means change the conversation, amazing things can happen. So I remember talking to this guy, a real Jersey guy, hard-nosed businessman, negotiated everything down to the penny. And we're doing a 5-figure deal. So of course he's gonna, you know, sharpen his pencil, which that was the old term. Hey, come on, Mitch, sharpen your pencil. That was code for lower your price, right? Sharpen that pencil a little bit. And you realize, okay, I said to him, you know what? I'm going to let you set the price. And I took him by surprise, right? See, I'm not going to quote this. I'm going to let you decide what you honestly think it's worth to you. And then I'm going to decide if I accept your offer or not. Pushed him, he was speechless because he expected, you know, I'm going to haggle. And he said, all right, you got me. you got me. What's the deal? I said, you're negotiating the old game. Shoot high, you shoot high, I shoot high, you shoot low, we come down. What do? Come on, what's the word? Compromise, right? I said, I don't play that game. I want to maximize. I want the highest and best for both parties. And if we can't do that, I don't want your business. And he came across with a number which was bigger than the number I was going to charge him. And I said, you know what? I accept. And what I learned just in that conversation, you have no idea what you're worth until somebody is willing to pay you more than you would have asked for. That was transformation for me and my thinking, because you think in terms of what you think you're worth. You think in terms of your rate, your hourly, your project rate. I think in terms of what's the value? What's the value? See, there are people that own car dealerships, right? And they own multiple car dealerships. So let's say you're in a business and you have various price products. You have a high-end coaching program, whatever. And you have a Midland program, for people who can't do that. And then let's say you have the self-learning at a lower price, right? And you say, well, how do I market to three different, because there's three different buyers. But if you think of yourself as a car dealer, right? You have, let's say, an Audi dealership next to a Toyota dealership, next to a General Motors dealership, a GM or a Ford, right? And they're all on the same land, but they're three different buildings. Now think about it. If you're a buyer of a car, one of those three cars, and you're ready, you're driving around, you see, you're going to pull into the parking lot of the car dealer of the car that you think you want to buy, right? So if I meet you and I greet you out front before we get into my complex, and I shuffle everybody toward the Audi, a lot of people are going to go turn around and go to Toyota, right? Because they don't want Audi. Or if I shuffle everybody to Ford, the low end, but they're all high-end buyers, they're going to say, well, I don't want to go there. I want to go to the Audi deal. That's how I look at a business with multiple price points. This way, when you're sifting and you're sorting and you're marketing, you're targeting the people for that particular dealership, right? The analogy in whatever way you use it. We talked about that, right, Sarah and Christine, because
absolutely,
they started out with one program, then we went to two, and now we're expanding beyond that, realizing that people have more needs. So you break out, you expand, and you kind of supply and demand, right? If the demand is there, you say, let's fill it with some supply. So long-winded answer is all these deals, I really didn't know what I was doing. I was using street smarts, common sense, but in the end, it was always highest and best. What's highest and best for you? If we can, my approach to negotiation is simple. Let's switch seats. I'll advocate for you. You advocate for me. You sit in my seat. You walk in my shoes. You see the world through my lenses, my eyes. The old story, if you want to sell Jane Jones what Jane Jones buys, you have to see Jane Jones through Jane Jones' eyes. And you can't do that if you don't switch seats, metaphorically. And if the person is willing to switch seats, that's great because they'll advocate for you. And now you reach a higher and possibly the highest and best at that point in time. When you're in that ethos, when you're in that spirit, selling is no longer about technique, all right? It's no longer about, persuasion or overcoming. Who objects? How many people here object to getting what they want? Anybody? I've met some people actually who really will give you a hard time to get what they want. It's like, all right, uncle. But really, when you think it through, very few people object to getting what they want. What do they object to? What do they object to? Terry?
A lot of times they object to you thinking you know what they want when they haven't stated it, or when they're being pigeonholed, or when they're being pressured.
Yeah, it's human nature, isn't it?
Yeah.
I find that people object when you try to give them what they don't want or need. That's not rocket science,
No.
you know. So again, my approach is a very humanistic approach, and that's what I discovered. Took all the pressure off me to have to sell them, right? Which when you think about selling, you think you have to do something to convince or whatever. No, it's a collaborative conversation that ends with, what's in your best interest? Is it in your best interest to stay where you are and do nothing? Okay. If that's what's best for you right now, then that's what we'll do. And when it's time, when you're ready or you're committed, we'll come back. And the question is, what will take you? By the way, this is one of the phrases that made me a fortune. What will take you from getting ready to being ready? Right? There are all kinds of techniques people use to convince people they should be ready before they're ready. But the reality is, fish eat when they're hungry, not when we drop the line. And your job, whatever your business, is to find not so much the bait. That's important. Too many marketers focus on the bait. They should be focused on the fishing hole. Because if you found a fishing hole with hungry fish swimming all around, and they were hungry for what you had, you could drop any bait in there and they would swarm like piranha, right? Whereas if you focus so much on the perfect bait and don't put as much thought and attention on the fishing hole, where are they? Who are they and where are they? You could be spending a fortune in marketing and misfiring all the time, attracting the wrong kind of people. It's worse if you attract the wrong kind of people than if you attract nobody. I'd rather sit here waiting than waste my time with the wrong kind of people, right? And I bet you've done that before. So anyway.
You get a bunch of hungry fish with no teeth.
Yeah.
They can't eat the bait.
Whatever. So again, the new game of selling, the new game of service is an inside out game, not an outside in game. All right. And when you think about it, your upside is inside, not outside. Your upside is inside, not outside. And when you get good with the person inside and you're clear, all right, it's amazing. Everything that comes on the outside becomes a reflection of the inside. They say, so within, or from within, so without. So I'm really big on developing the person just as much as developing the process.
Mitch, as you know, we like to work with a lot of high performers. There's some of those high performers in this room right now. And we have, sometimes we like to be perfect, but rather than taking imperfect action. And I know that's one of your go-tos. If you can talk about that, and then I don't know if we've ever said this. There we go. Imperfect action beats perfect inaction every time.
That's my phrase.
And I know you have some good stories about that, but I know in a conversation we were having this week, and you've been coaching us for a while, was the term goal frustration.
Yes.
And you're like, that's very common for high achievers. And can you just rewind, as you say sometimes, to
Sure.
that conversation?
High achievers have high expectations. All right. They expect a lot of themselves. And this comes from about 25, almost 30 years now of study in a science called axiology. Axiology is the science of human value. And essentially, there's 3 dimensions of value. I call them soul, role, and goal. Okay. If you ask 100 people what they're going to be doing come the first of the year, right? Probably 90 of them will say some form of what?
Exercise, weight loss.
That too, which is what? A
New Year's
Goal.
resolution.
Goal
resolution.
making.
goal setting, right? Aren't you thinking right now this time of year about goal setting? Come on, I know you're all thinking about, or you will be come the first of the year, right?
If you haven't.
So the thing about goal setting, thing about goal is it's all or nothing. In other words, there's no 80% goal, 90%. It's goal or no goal. And so what I've discovered over the years using this model, we could talk more about the model, but this part of the model is that right now, if I asked you this question, are you where you think you ought to be right now? Or do you think you should be someplace else, someplace different? All right. If the answer to that question, the distance between where I am and where I think I ought to be is not very far, there's no goal frustration. But if that distance is a certain amount, and everybody's different, you have frustration that you haven't achieved the goal yet, or that the goal is causing you to do things like your role, which you really don't enjoy, you're not good at, you're not happy with. And then the goal frustration leads to role frustration. These are our terms. They're not in the clinical medical community. They're not in the holistic community. They're not in, you won't find these terms anywhere in the physician's desk reference, but you will find them throughout our work, because what we say is instead of doing your goal setting and then your role being just get the goal, and if you have any time left over, nurture your soul, consider doing your soul setting and your role setting, and then doing your goal setting. And if your goals are in alignment and congruent with your role or roles, which is in alignment and congruent with your soul, basically you have a soulful, rollful, and goalful life. But if there's a mismatch, if there's a misalignment, like a subluxation in chiropractic, you know, I went for my first adjustment since I had my stroke like 2 weeks ago. It was like crack, 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 crack. My back cracked in like 9 places, right? But I felt so good afterwards because I was aligned, right? And I could feel myself physically misaligned. It's like that in business too. It's like that in selling. If you feel like you're coming on too strong, or you're not assertive enough, or you seek too much approval, or you're doing it for validation or acceptance, all right, you're putting obstacles in your way. So what I say is, you know, about 80% of people we measure, and we have a tool that actually Terry and Christine are using now, which is phenomenal. In 15 minutes, we can measure your entire value system and project it out to like a bunch of categories and skills. About 70% of people we measure have goal frustration. And so the antidote is not press harder, work harder, push harder. It's to stop and say, wait a second, is this something I'm really passionate about, something I want, something I'm willing to work for? Or is it something my mind created, but there's no anchor in soul or role to align with the goal? And I think if you filter your goals, even just through like, can I do this? Is this a role I'd like to play? If not, that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It means you may need to get some skills training or some business training or some coaching or whatever. I really admire Christine and Terry for that, because from the very beginning, they really were eager. I mean, they're already established, proven business people, right? So they didn't have anything to prove, but they were eager to learn, willing to do things and try things. And what was amazing is many of the things you tried worked the first time, So I say that you can eliminate a lot of the goal frustration if you filter it through, is this something my soul can get around? And sometimes it's not, and that's okay. But you don't want to walk around frustrated, because that leads to stress. Stress leads to dis-ease, mental, physical, emotional. Okay. And so a lot of this game is emotions, as Terry has so well documented to all of you. And then if you can, I think the biggest hurdle is if you know yourself, everything else is out there for you. But if you don't know yourself, you can know everything on the outside, but you're never really going to be fulfilled and as congruent as you could be. So I say, take this time in the next few days, weeks, think about your soul setting, your role setting, and then maybe do your goal setting in the context of that frame.
So let me ask you this. I love that, I'm bananas for the axiology, because it really fits in with my whole world. But when we really get down to, okay, so we all own businesses. We all want to get ahead. We want to have better sales. We want to have better marketing. But what comes first? What is it that people really need to do to get that cash infusion? Is it marketing? Because, I mean, if you go onto Facebook, you go onto the internet, everybody's talking about having some kind of marketing campaign. And what comes first? You talked about that with us a lot. And so, wisdom on that.
I like simple. I think that's my greatest gift, is making things simple, because I hate complex. Right? I like to make everything simple. So there's 3 parts of the business: marketing, sales, service. Right? Let's keep it simple. Marketing is an expense. Would we agree with that?
No Absolutely.
Question. All right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Sales is income, right? That's obvious. Service, in many companies, a lot of companies, is also an expense, right? So if you understand that simple model, and again, this is not too simplistic, this is like profound. So what you have is, in every business, except the ones we work with, you have 2 expense departments, marketing and service, bookending 1 income center, sales. That's why the sales department has probably the highest earners in the company, because they produce the income that supports marketing and service. You with me?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, what would happen if you could turn one of those expense departments into a profit center?
Say more about that, Mitch.
Well, if, let's say, your service was so good that your service became a profit center, that every time you served somebody, you either made more money, got another sale, got a referral, got a testimonial, got a joint venture, got somebody to sing your praises in front of other people like you're doing today. If you could do that, if you could turn service into a profit center, now you have 2 profit centers: sales, service, 2 income centers, 1 expense department. Whoa, what does that do to our equation? Totally transforms it, right? Well, let's take it 1 step further. Is it possible that when you start putting your attention on serving And I don't mean Pollyanna just give away. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about serving people, because the idea is that unless you're a one-trick pony and you have to keep getting new customers, there's gold in their house. Customers have more money to spend. They have more needs. They have more desires. They have, if they get results, they can use some of the money that you help them make and fund the next step, right? And that's the game I play. So if you could get 60, 50, 60, 70% of your new business from your service department, even if your department is you take off one hat, you answer one phone, hey, this is Mitch Axelrod service, what would happen to your marketing expense? Wouldn't it drop? That's the game I wanted to play, because I was not a good marketer. I'm a practitioner, all right? Practitioners are typically not good marketers. They can learn anything, but your sweet spot is serving. So why not turn service into marketing? That's what I did. I became the sales doctor way back when, and I had on my business card 4 words that got me more business than anybody's business card has ever gotten them in the history of human race. I can't prove it, but I'm just going to say it anyway. It said, want a second opinion. The sales doctor, want a second opinion. And by handing out my business card, there was no doubt about what I did, right? I'm a doctor. I'll help you with your sales. You want a second opinion? Great. Initially, I gave it away for free. That was my marketing. All of my marketing. Now, I learned to do seminars. That was also my marketing. But essentially, it was a second opinion. And the way I framed it was, if my second opinion validates your first, go do what you're going to do. If not, maybe you might consider doing something else. Maybe you would consider working with me, right? I earned the trust by giving a second opinion. Now, I learned how to market, and I learned how to use PR eventually and get on the front cover of a 1 million industry publication and some other fancy things. But I paid $15,000 to Jay Abraham to learn that stuff, right? In the third year I was in business, second year I was in business. So I paid big money to learn when I had it. But before I had it, and when I had no marketing skills, it was serve, deliver, serve some more. And I got a reputation to be a guy you should talk to because he's being of service. Whether you could use his service or not, people used to contact me just to hear what I would do and how I would approach the business, So I think you really have to determine for your market, there's got to be a marketing to market match, but there's also got to be a match to what you're good at. And I teach relationship marketing more than anything else. There are plenty of people teach funnel marketing, direct sales, direct mail. I mean, there's so many kinds of marketing. All of us have relationship capital. And the relationship capital you've taken years to build could very well be some of the very people that could launch you. 1 gets 2, 2 gets 4, 4 gets 8. That's the way I always looked at it. So again, relationship to me is everything. And when you become a what I call trusted voice of choice, I used to call it the trusted advisor. Everybody uses that term, but if you're a trusted voice, people turn to you. Even if you don't sell them, whatever, you're going to find people will refer you. Even, I got business from people who don't do business with me, So I'd say that understanding that sales and service can be the engine that drives your business. And if you really use your relationship capital, you can serve and sell. And I'm not going to say you don't have to market. You do. You have to let people know you're around. But if you're not outgoing, like I'm an introvert mostly, if you're not, always out there talking to people and jabber, I go to meetings and I just hide in the corner, and when somebody comes up to me, I talk to her. It's not me, you know? So you got to find your sweet spot for that.
Unlike us who like to go out and talk to everybody.
We're great at that, really.
We do enjoy it.
Look at the people who show up here.
And you guys often hear us talk about that in these Build Your Business and Profits, and our clients know that they need to be out marketing, meeting people, and doing different things, getting out of the house. That's nothing new, and I think that's, well, there's so many things that you guys probably hear that we align with Mitch on, the to love and serve, and to be of service, and I think it's great. You guys are enjoying Mitch, and you can see why we and you're probably like, how can we learn more of this, Mitch? But Mitch, I know you have some more nuggets to drop before we let them know what we might have coming up.
Sure. And if you have any questions, like, you have a burning question, put it in the chat. If there's something you're frustrated about or you want to know, I mean, it's a big conversation we're kind of introducing here. But I want to focus a little bit on the selling part of it. Okay.
Yeah.
Because there's an old game and there's a new game. Everybody mostly is playing the old game, right? Which is scripting, you talk, you present. You've all had some sales training or business training, right? I would assume. And if you haven't, well, even maybe better, because you don't have any bad habits to change, right? But the old game was all about, like, throw it out there, talk to as many people as you can, and then, filter out the ones that are good. But again, if you come from the hungry fish idea, right, and you find your pool of hungry fish, and they're out there. If they're not out there, then you may have to alter product, service, or deliverable. All right. Don't be stubborn. Be flexible. Start to look at, why we'll give you a very important question right here, right now. All right. The most important question you can ever ask a customer, in my opinion, why did you buy from me? Not 1 in 100 companies ask that question. They're all using, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you likely to refer us? And you say 8, and you never refer them. When you ask your customers, why did you buy from me? You start to find out in their language what it is about you that makes you unique and different, maybe better, right? And I call that a USA as opposed to a USP. USP is unique selling proposition, been around for 100 years. You go into a room with a bunch of people, you figure out what your proposition is, and you put it out into the world and say, crickets. What happened? Why aren't they beating my doors now? Right? Because you know what you sell. You don't know what they buy. Let me repeat that. If you get nothing out of this session, and I know you got something, but if you should definitely remember this, they're not buying what you're selling. In 9 out of 10 cases, and I've trained literally 1 million people, so I have a pretty good handle. 9 out of 10 cases, they're not buying what you're selling because you're not selling what they're buying. You're in the I frame, what I call the I frame. I can do this, I can do that, I can present this, instead of the you frame. Let's talk about you. Okay, long enough. Now let's you talk about me. Okay. So reality is that you can totally transform your business, just by certain little things you can do differently. And the only way you ever really, really know why people buy from you is if you ask them, why did you buy from me? So I'm sitting with a corporate client. I was doing exclusively corporate training. I said, you have consultants coming out here all day long. Why did you hire me? He said, Mitch, you're the first guy who came in here and told us to break down the walls between marketing and sales and service, and that marketing, sales, and service is one holistic process. And now we are better able to attract, convert, and keep customers. I said, dinner's on me. Can I quote you? He said, of course. So when people ask me what I did, I said the 4 magic words: my clients tell me. I'm really good at helping companies attract, convert, and keep customers. Which one of those would you like to do better? That was my elevator pitch. And if they said none, great. Do you know anybody who would like to attract, convert, and keep more customers? Okay. I got that by asking my client, what did I do? I wouldn't have come up with those words, right? That's a unique service advantage. Why do people buy from you versus unique selling proposition? Why do you sell what you sell for the reasons you sell it and what you think makes you unique and different, right? So sometimes, 20, 30 years ago, I was a keynote speaker for Brian Tracy. I earned it. I had to speak off with 40 other speakers, and I came out number 1. And we were using flip charts back then, right? Some of you remember flip charts. I know some of you are not old, but and on the flip chart, I had the words, big doors swing on little hinges. Big doors swing on little hinges. Big possibilities come from small distinctions. I couldn't open the big doors of corporate America because I was not a good marketer. I didn't have the persistence. I had everything against me. I found a small hinge that opens a big door. And it's always one person, one relationship. Might take you 2 or 3 to get there, but it's only one person can swing open that big door. I look for the little hinges, and all the things I talk about are little hinges. They don't seem very much, but when you apply them, you realize they have the power to create powerful, powerful possibilities. And so when you really look at it, if you know why people are buying from you, now you can go out and find other people who want the very same things those people have gotten from you and told you, now that's why we bought from you. That's a shortcut to getting clear on your value proposition. Okay, so Terry?
Yeah, there's a lot of real estate people that are going to be listening to this that are, I think, a lot of times in the old game of selling, and they think they got to convince people to sell the houses and they got to convince people to do the deals. How would you say this applies to real estate in making a deal rather than trying to convince somebody to move forward?
I spent 10 years doing real estate deals. When I was a financial planner, I started syndicating real estate. First, I was putting people into bigger syndications, like multi-million-dollar syndications that were run by general partners. Then I said, I could do this myself. And I syndicated about 6 or 8 deals where I was general partner, right? So what I realized was, everybody was pitching everybody on deals. This was in the heyday of the 80s where real estate was like crazy. Until 1986, they changed the tax law. And thank God I had deposits, refundable deposits, or I would have been bankrupt 2 years earlier. So here's what I learned. When you're selling a house, and I didn't know much about selling real estate, houses and stuff. When you're selling a house, what rooms are most attractive? Somebody, anybody.
Kitchen.
Kitchen, right? That's a little hinge. And most of the time, who makes a decision who buys the house? More often than not, the wife. Isn't it true? I mean, it's a joint decision. But, you defer to the wife or the whatever. Point I'm making is when you know the emotional link, I coined this phrase 30 years ago. I was working for with a mortgage company. They were converting 8% of their deals. They were spending $1 million a month on advertising. A month. Mortgage, very successful. I saw something they were doing wrong. I said to them, I can point to where you're dropping, where they're losing. And they said, okay, tell us. And I did, right? And then I sold them a $90,000 training program to correct it, right? And I said, here's the deal. You're trying to talk to people 3 minutes on the phone, get them qualified, move them on to the application. And you know nothing about them, right? You're talking for 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And then, hey, how about getting an application? I said, let's find the emotional link. What? Let's find that one emotional link right now that is pressing on them, that's their biggest concern emotionally, which will also be psychologically and maybe financially. And if you can extract that emotional link, let's expand the conversation from 3 to 5 minutes. And if you, at the end of that 5 minutes, you can identify what is the most important thing that will make the decision for you in buying a new house, right? Questions like that. We got them from 8% to 15% conversion. Their sales went from 47 million to 80 million in 1 quarter. They wound up getting to $500 million, and they sold in 2003 to KeyBank in Cleveland. When KeyBank bought the company, they said, how did you guys grow? Oh, we have this training here. And they literally bought my training with the company. I didn't get paid because I wasn't smart enough to get a piece of the company. Not that they would have given it. So they bought the company in part because of the training. And the biggest thing we taught them was find the emotional link. And once you find the emotional link, while everybody else is pitching and persuading and overcoming objections, you now can talk about how can we help you get what that emotional thing is, that why are you buying the house? Never asked somebody why they're buying the house. Can you imagine that? They're buying the house. Why? Oh, we didn't think to ask them that. My point being, big doors swing on little hinges. And sometimes it's little changes, little shifts in what you're saying, what you're doing, when you're saying it, what you're not saying, that can make all the difference.
And this really works for whether you're buying the house, whether you're helping somebody else buy the house, or where you're trying to get somebody to sell the house to you, too. It's the same principle, because people have reasons for everything, and they're all emotional reasons. And so when we can really key into that emotional reason that they will take action, then we can actually have that large door swing on that tiny hinge.
When I used to do, I always did stand-up training, I said, now just imagine this. This is how things happen, why people buy. You start with an emotion. And it's right here, right? I want that Porsche. I want that Porsche. Boom. Whatever it is. I'm using a Porsche. Tesla. And then it starts to travel. I want that Porsche. I want that Porsche. I want that Porsche. It gets up to your head. I need that Porsche. It starts as an emotion. You've all heard this before. People buy on emotion, justify with
logic.
Right. Yet the vast majority of selling processes and systems that I've been exposed to all are left brain reasons why. All right. Advantages, even benefits. But until you get to the emotion of what's driving somebody away or toward, you're missing a big piece of the puzzle. And once you put that piece of the puzzle in place, it's a magic how a lot of the other pieces of the puzzle fall into place. That's also a reason why you guys have been really successful, is because you're helping people to get in touch with their emotions, the ones that drive them, the ones that inhibit them, the ones that stop them dead cold, identify it and get past it. And that's a big part of what Generator has been able to do, and a big part of your success in working with people.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So
I know we're coming to the end.
yeah, go ahead.
And let everybody get back to what their busy lives are. And thank you for joining us here, as well as Mitch for gracing us with your presence and allowing us to share you as a special treat.
A pleasure. Are there anything in the chat at all? Anybody want to know anything or say anything or comment? Or
You guys can unmute if you have questions, if you have comments. Definitely unmute. We love to hear from you guys, of course. And
it's a lot to absorb. I mean, but it's good. It's all good. I mean, it's just taking it all in. But yeah, this is a lot of good stuff, Mitch. Definitely a lot to take in, but I can't. I can't ask anything because, like I said, I'm just kind of like absorbing it in my head. So
are you speechless?
kind of, yeah, a little bit, yeah. But it's good. I think most of us are just like, wow, a lot to take in before Christmas. But
that's exactly what I was thinking.
All good
Matt.
education.
I was like, I completely agree with you, Matt. I was like, think of something to. I can't think of anything to question. I just have to sit with this for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll have a question on behalf of Jennifer, because we have talked to Jennifer a few times about she has this idea. She maybe even convinced herself a little bit that she doesn't have the skills to sell. Is it a thing that you have to, it just comes to you, or can you learn this?
Jennifer, you can unmute. What do you sell, or what is your work?
I write books for people who want to help more people and get themselves viewed as an expert and get up on stages and podcasts and get better known, basically.
So you're like, would it be called a ghostwriter?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. So everybody has so what is it that your clients tell you? Why do they hire you?
Generally, there's a couple of different things. One is that they want to either start a course or become known as a specific thing. Like one of my clients is building a real estate team, and he wanted a book to use to build his real estate team, to attract people to build a real estate team.
That's why excuse me for interrupting.
Sorry, that's not his why.
No. That's why he wants to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
Why did he hire you?
Honestly, because he's in the community and that's the service I was offering. He's like, I need that. Basically, okay. He knew me, and I did that.
Have you ever asked him, why did you hire me?
No, I haven't.
What are you going to do sometime in the next week or 2 or 3, whenever you get the opportunity?
I am going to ask each and every one of my clients why they hired me.
You may not have to do a whole lot more, because once you know why people hire you, work with you, select you, you understand what makes you unique and different from their point of view. Now you start to look for people who want more of that. All right?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so selling is part process, obviously. Okay? I have 3 areas I work with: mindset, motivation, and method. All right. When I do seminars or teach groups, I say the what, the why, and the how. Are you here for what to do? Yeah, we're all here for what to do. Are you here for how to do it? Everybody wants to learn how to do it. Have you figured out why you're doing it? right? So this is all about method, mindset, motivation. You have the motivation. Mindset is getting clear on all the reasons why you can't do this, and then put them in a little box, put a bow around it, and throw it on the side of the road, because you can learn anything. You learned, right? You learned how to write books. It's a very valuable service. I'm actually looking for somebody to write a book. So we should talk.
We should.
Right? Yeah. So there you go. But there's methods that you can learn how to engage, how to attract, how to qualify, how to convert. Then how to keep customers for life or possibly get referrals, how to multiply your ROI, which means get paid more because you're worth more or whatever, okay? And there are very simple models and frameworks that you can learn that you can do because you've learned everything you've learned to do up to now. That's doable. So if you put out of your mind this notion of selling, the word selling gives people the EBGBs. Like, who the hell wants to be a salesperson? I used to go to ask the audience, like, how many of you just say, hey, I'm a salesperson, I'm darn proud of it? You know, nobody, very few. So everything you can learn how to do, but you already have the most important piece. You have people who trust you, who've paid you, who like you, right? And there's reasons for it, and you've got to find out why. And once you find out why, then you can actually ask them, do you know anybody who would want some of that? Really, it could be that simple.
It's interesting. That's a really good way for me to look at things.
Remember, everything is the frame you look through,
Mm-hmm.
right? You switch, like an eye doctor, I wear contacts, you wear glasses. Remember when the doctor says, is this one better or is this one better? And
Right.
you keep going until you get 20/20 vision,
Right.
right? So you keep making adjustments in the frame through which you look. And then finally you find a frame that works and say, I can do that. That's what
Right.
the new game of selling and the new game of service is. It's a whole new way of looking at the game to make it a game, to make it fun, enjoyable, and productive.
The concept you brought up of the soul roll goal thing really, I mean, that was a very that struck me quite a lot. That resonated with me because a lot of the work that I've been doing recently, I've that's exactly how it's been going, and it was just like, oh, that's what's been happening. Like that's what I've been doing, and now that you've put it that way, and I can see it that way, I think that's going to carry over, and being able to attach emotionally to that, like the end product to, the soul to the goal, that's going to make it easier for me.
Good, wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So many great things. I'm glad that's one that you were able to walk away with, Jennifer.
Absolutely.
I know each of you are absorbing different ones. That's why we love working with Mitch and bringing him out to our audience. And I know you have something that you might be up to soon that we might be doing with you. Let's just share it with this group.
If you trust my arm, we've talked a lot about how, just like with Jennifer, believing she can't sell or doesn't like to sell or it's uncomfortable. If you look at it and change the frame to how can I love and serve people and they reward me with their money, and then you can learn the language, the communication skills, how to advance relationships, how to qualify people quickly, right? These are simple things everybody can do. And so we got to talking and we said, you know what? We're going to run a special training and probably for like 4 months, 3 or 4 months, where we're going to teach you basically everything that I've been working with Terry and Christine on. And because they know the community, they know there are certain areas that you all can benefit from. And so we're going to run a training where you're going to come and we're going to basically not just teach you, right? We have the library that can teach you. We're going to show you, and we're going to actually help you with the language, the words, the confidence, the clarity, and the one thing that stands above everything else, the one human trait upon which all human traits are built, courage. All right. When you know, and I promise you, because I've done it for 100,000 people, how would your life change if you knew you could not ever be rejected? Just the emotional feeling of knowing you couldn't be rejected. How would that change your life? Well, 30 years ago, I developed rejection-proof networking. All right. These are the things that we're going to show you. Easy, very easy. And when you start to implement them, like the cumulative compound interest, it starts to build over time. And so our game is ROI ×2. Fast return of investment, forever return on investment. And that's what's kept me in business 40 plus years. So we're going to design a little training. You guys have been the first to hear about it. We're going to give some incentives to hop in early. And then you're going to get, as an extra bonus, my entire training library of the new game of selling and the new game of service on video, right? In other words, you're going to be able to actually dive into that training and maybe possibly get results even before we start the class or the program. So that's what we have on the drawing board, and we would invite you all. You're welcome to join us.
Anybody interested in hearing more about that, go
Just
ahead
message us
and type
in the
me
chat.
in the chat and we'll reach out to you and talk about it. Ryan has a question, and he said, can I ask a question? But I don't know.
Can you give me 30 seconds to answer the door? I think I have a delivery.
Yes.
Deliveries.
All right.
Ryan,
so
you
you guys talk. I'll be right.
You bet.
Hello?
Yeah, just 1 minute. Mitch
Can
has to
you
go.
guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Why are you sorry?
All right, I'll keep it quick then. Yeah, no, thank you, Mitch. This has been great.
Oh, he's not here. He's going to come back. Hold on.
He had to take a 30-second break to answer his door. He had somebody pounding on his door.
Okay.
I think it's the cops.
All right, that's good. No, it's good. I'm driving, and yeah, hopefully I'll be at my destination in 30 seconds.
No problem. The good training so far, isn't it?
Excellent. Absolutely excellent.
Yeah.
And it's going to be
Absolutely.
access to the library, and then we're just going to get on and have one of these calls, like almost like a lab. Hey, I watched this recording. This is what happened. How would you guide it differently? Very exclusive rights to Terry, Mitch, and myself.
And she said, I watched this training. I went out and had this sales conversation, and this is what happened. This is where I'm at. What should I do? Very application based. Okay, so Mitch is back. Ryan has a question for you. Ryan, go for it.
Awesome. Thank you. Mitch, this has been great. I appreciate that you spent 10 years in the industry that I'm in the financial world. And what I'm about 17, 18 years of business. And what I've come to the realization over time in my sales and in my prospecting is that it's easier to sell and convert people that are highly motivated, right? And that have what I like to think is like desire to do something really big. And that's been very good to me, in recent years, as far as sales goes. But the new realization that I've come to is that there's a small percentage of those people that, again, while the desire is great, desire can be fleeting. And the people that I enjoy the most working with are people that have ambition, which is really sort of like, that sort of gumption to be able to push through hard things and really want to actually improve. And I guess sometimes I struggle, like I feel like I've figured out, and again, through the work that I've done with Terry and Christine, how to sort of sell to somebody who has a desire. But I feel like I feel like the next evolution for me is really trying to sell to somebody that has ambition, because I struggle with that sometimes. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So somewhere in there, there's a question, I believe. So let me address a couple of things. It took me about 10 years before I came up with the phrase, stop trying to convert the heathens, find some true believers. All right. Because everybody I met, and I don't mean heathens, human heathens, obviously. But, in terms of buyers, it's like, I don't want to be in the convincing game, right? I don't feel comfortable with that. There's an old phrase, a woman convinced against her will is of the same opinion still. And that goes for men too. Just happened to be a woman's quote. But here's the other thing I discovered, which was great. Everybody should establish and have buyer criteria. Well, actually seller criteria. All right. Sometimes they call this an avatar. I don't like labeling things. I'm just anti-label. Right. But if that's what you like, that's okay. But what I mean is, when you establish, that's why it's so important to ask your clients, why did you buy from me? Because when you realize there are criteria that people are using to buy from you, right? And they're going to be different. But if you can get a real kind of centered understanding of why they're buying, you say, okay, I used to want people with desire, but desire isn't enough because it's fleeting. I work best with ambitious people. All right. And you start to define who you're best suited to serve, who is, not ideal, but like, at a range of people, ambition is definitely a characteristic. By the way, that's a qualifying characteristic, right? No different than if you have money or don't have money. If you don't have ambition, I'm not your guy. And you say, well, isn't that pretty narrow? Yeah. Guess what? If you had everybody in your world had ambition and the other criteria that you need to be of service to them, you'd get great results. You'd attract great people, the right people, right? So sometimes we overlook that we have to qualify, we have to establish our seller criteria, like who we suited to serve. I'm best suited to serve bigger companies from a number of different points of view. If I teach you a way that you can turn your customer service into a profit center, and let's say you could double your income, okay? And I won't ask you that, whatever it is, right?
Yep.
But what if I went to a company that had 100 people in customer service, and I said, you take the same thing, all right, that I showed Ryan, and you do it with your customers, and they make $10 million. All right. It'd be very easy for them to pay me whatever, wouldn't matter what they paid me. I could charge them $100,000. And by the way, I have charged $100,000 for 5 questions. All right. That we're going to give it to you in the training. I charge another company $10,000 for those same 5 questions. Why? Because they were a smaller company, right? It was more in line with what the value proposition was. And people, I've shared that story. They said to me, Mitch, how could you do that? What do you mean? How could you? My answer was, how could you not do that? What are you, nuts? You're gonna sell something for $10,000 that a company can make $10 million on? So part of it is really understanding who you want to serve, setting up the criteria, saying, I work best with this kind of individual, company, group, whatever. Are you that? No. Who do you know who is? We're going to show you the rejection-proof networking, all right? And it's only 3 things, 3 parts. It's very important for you to know what you do. And I would argue that you don't know what you do. You know what you sell, but you don't know what you do because you haven't asked your clients, why did you buy from me, right? So when you really get centered, and it's a great revelation to say, I don't want to work with, I don't want to work with people with desire. I want to work with people, let's say, desire and ambition. Okay, great.
Exactly.
Right? Now, what else are the characteristics of the people that you work best with? Guess what? I go back to my best clients and say, what are the characteristics that make for your success? I want more of you. I want more Terry and Christine's. Terry and Christine want more of you guys, right? You want more of your best customers. But if you don't take the time to kind of figure out why they buy from you, what they get from you, what makes you unique, right? What stands out, and establish seller criteria, you're shooting a shotgun. That turns a shotgun into a rifle. Is that helpful?
It is. Yeah, very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. So we are coming to the end. We may have even gone over a little bit, and her mom is waiting for us. So this has been Build Your Business Profit. I am super excited that Mitch was able to come out and share with us today. We're probably going to have him back on the show in a couple of weeks to have more of his wisdom and talk more about what we're doing. And so, everybody, round of applause for Mitch.
Thank you.
And
if I might just say one more thing.
Absolutely.
I'm a real big believer in listening to people, especially clients and people who favor you. So way back in 1996, I was speaking in front of 700 people for a guy I would think many of you in the real estate business know. His name was Robert Allen. He wrote the book Nothing Down, and maybe that's even before your time. I don't know. Anyway, I was doing a seminar, that all-day seminar, that Saturday. And so I invited everybody to join me, right? So I'm getting ready on stage Saturday morning, 7:30, and somehow this 6-foot blonde comes sauntering down the aisle. I don't know how she got in. Obviously, she was a 6-foot blonde. I should have known. And I noticed, I said, as she came up, she had a big smile on her face. I said, I noticed you from the other night. And she puts out her hand. She says, hi, I'm Liza. I said, Liza, what made you decide to come back, to come to the seminar? And she said 5 words that changed my life. I want more of you. And unfortunately, her 6'5" boyfriend, Charles, was walking right behind her. So I said, and we became great friends, went on the cruise with the 2 of them. They became clients and good friends. And I never stopped thinking about that. Like in show business, you always leave them wanting a little bit more. And that really was the standard by which I have measured a lot of my work is, do you want more of me? Because if you don't want any more of me, all right, then this is the end, all right? And so take that to heart, because you can always leave them with something wanting a little more of you. And hopefully we've left you wanting more.
Awesome. So till next
Definitely
week.
have.
Thank you. So grateful for you to come hang out with us, Mitch, and all of your wisdom over the last year and a half. and we're super excited for what's next. Build your business profit next Thursday. We will see you all. Have a great Christmas and all that.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. This has been wonderful.